In this video, we're gonna go over the difference between a monolithic and a modular blockchain and the reasoning behind why I think modular blockchain are going to be massive in the next bull run. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, so I want to make sure that in this video we understand what's the difference between modular and monolithic blockchain. So we're gonna go over the basic components, right? But most importantly, we have to understand what are the components of a blockchain, because if we don't understand the basics, then it's gonna be very difficult to conceptualize what a modular blockchain is, okay? So look at this Twitter post from Fuel Labs, which really explain in a very simple manner, like what are the basics of a modular blockchain, right? So we have four components. Number one is the execution, right? How the transactions are being processed. Then we have the settlement, right? Which is the dispute resolution and the bridging of the transaction themselves. The consensus, right? How those transactions are being ordered. And then the data availability, right? What's the data availability? Is like the data inside the network that it's readily available to the blockchain, right? So imagine like these four components, okay, being all stacked up together in the monolithic blockchain, right? And when you think about monolithic blockchain, we're talking about Ethereum, Solana, and all the other layer ones blockchain, okay? So the best way to visualize this, right, is to taking a look at this blog actually from Bybit, where he actually explained the traditional monolithic architecture and the modular architecture, right? So take a look at this, right? So when you have a monolithic blockchain, right, the consensus, the execution layer, the settlement are all on the same floor, right? So imagine like the monolithic blockchain being just a one-story building where everything happens inside. And as you can see, when there's a lot of people inside that building, things can get chaotic. And let's say that you want to get out of that building. So to go from one side to the other, if it's very packed, right, you can get congested. And that's why the majority of monolithic blockchain are difficult to scale, right? On the other hand, look at the modular architecture, right? So we talked about the four main components of the blockchain, but look at this. It's instead of like being a one-story building, right? We have actually four-story building, right? Because all those layers are actually separated between each other. So we have the consensus and data layer, right? Then we have the execution layer. So now take a look instead of at the modular architecture, right? So this picture represents it perfectly. So at the bottom right, we have the consensus and the data layer, right? So the data availability and all the data the blockchain stores, the consensus. And then we have the execution layers, right? Where basically all the action happens. And on top, you have the smart contracts, right? Which are the dApps and people that are building on top of a layer one. So as you can see, it's a way more organized blockchain. It's a way more organized architecture, right? So now you might think, why like monolithic blockchain have not been modular since the beginning, right? And the thing is that it seems easy, right, from a visual perspective, but when it comes down to actually glue everything together and make sure that this layer talks to this layer and then to this layer, technically is a very complex matter, right? So there's a lot of testing and there's a lot of like developments that is happening right now behind the scenes. And that's why I do believe modular blockchain are gonna be the next narrative in crypto, because it just makes sense, right? So like, why would you use, right, an older technology where you can actually use a newer one that is way more scalable, right? Because it makes sense, right? It can process more transactions, right, in a cheaper and faster way, right? And possibly solving the blockchain trilemma of scalability, decentralization, and security, right? So, and it just makes sense. So now you may think about what are the projects that are coming up in the modular narrative, right? So one of them that I really like is Celestia, right? Which is actually, it's been almost sponsored by Bybit in this blog post that they posted. And right now they are in the testnet phase, so the token is not been released yet. So they're working on the deployment of the mainnet and then the token generation event. Okay, but there's also other modular blockchains that are being released shortly, probably in the mid 2023, and that's why I do believe that catching those early and being able to be involved in those projects, that's what's gonna make a huge difference in the next bull run. Of course, like, do your due diligence. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not take my advice. I'm just here on YouTube talking about what I think could be the next narrative in crypto, but always do your own due diligence, okay? So I will also make a future video about Celestia because I think that that's a very interesting project. And also, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified about these time-sensitive videos. Also, let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the difference between a monolithic and a modular blockchain, and if it does make sense to you, right? Like, what do you think about these new type of technology that is about to come out? And just let me know what you think. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next.